obviously. And for those who don't, he's a banker, but also teaches young people career skills through his company, the Institute of Life. He's got nearly 3 million followers on LinkedIn and is definitely one of the OG LinkedIn influencers to a certain degree.
So now, teetering over, you talked about these blockchain projects you were involved in and such, right? And you've spent quite a bit of time in Hong Kong now. What is so unique about, blockchain as a solution or blockchain as a service? And what are some of the major applications you have seen until date, here in Asia Pacific?
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing that I guess has brought me to blockchain without like being so, everything needs to be put on a blockchain. It's going to be so much better than, using maybe a centralized system. I think that it just has applications literally in everything. Back in 2016, 2017, even 2018, when there was a massive hype around all these different blockchain applications, there was just generally not the tech wasn't ready yet to support all of these different applications that people were making these big promises about. And obviously you had that kind of boom and bust cycle that occurred with all these ICO projects raising tons of money, burning through money. Just not a good situation necessarily. And now fast forward to today, and you've seen the people who are not just in it for the money. I mean, of course, there's still some people in it for the money, but you're actually seeing people who build like very interesting solutions. You're seeing people building out, very complex blockchain solutions, such as the ones that we're building that are interoperable, that are scalable, that can create, pretty interesting and unique financial products. And I'm coming from a financial background, so a lot of my work is coming from, effectively moving from the traditional world into a more decentralized financial world. So, again, going into the company I'm working with now, Rio DeFi, we're creating DeFi or decentralized finance products. So this is like decentralized savings and lending without having to go to a bank where they're paying you, practically nothing, if not negative interest rates on some of this stuff. There's negative interest rates all over the place now. Whereas if you, work through a more decentralized fashion, you can effectively increase your interest, increase your yield potential, and do it without having to give your capital or trust someone like a bank, for example. That being said, there's definitely applications in all different, literally every different element. I mean, from non-fungible token NFTs within games, within the art space, to logistic applications, which don't necessarily need tokens, obviously. It's literally everywhere. And I think the thing that's going to be the tipping point is when, people don't have to care that it's built on a blockchain anymore, because it doesn't really matter, right? It should be about the efficiencies that it creates and the added value that it creates. And if it doesn't create or make it more efficient, then why use it? So, I think when, you have blockchains in the background of everything, and you just don't even know, that your game has, blockchain-based non-fungible token elements that you're playing, and it just works like that. I mean, that's going to be where it's really, really, really cool, for example. So yeah, I mean, I think blockchain is interesting for me because, again, it touches every industry. And as a curious person myself, being able to work with projects that are, creating traditional financial products on a blockchain, being able to work with projects that are, creating, non-fungible tokens within games and dApps. I mean, that's cool. I can work with all different types of industries, all different things, and it's always every day in the job is like a new challenge, a new thing to learn. So that's why I like
it. So then, John, in regards to, in light of COVID, how is the blockchain and fintech space looking?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I think it does depend a tad bit on, where your base is from, to a certain degree. I think generally speaking, having been based in Hong Kong, it's been pretty fortunate for us, for a number of reasons. Obviously, we haven't had this, massive lockdown and shutdown like other places. around the world have, including within the region, like Singapore, for example. That being said, I think the blockchain space in general tends to be used to working with distributed or decentralized teams. So, I've always, since I've been in blockchain for the past 4 years, more or less, have been working with people all over the world. So people, how Zoom had this massive, like, everyone's using it this year. Well, we've been using Zoom for years because you have people who work in the US, you have people who work in Europe, you have people who work in Asia, and you're all on the same team. So having these remote work is nothing new for us. So I think that hasn't really been too much of an issue for the space. I would say it's been more impactful on businesses that didn't necessarily have a viable business model. There's definitely going to be some pain and some shutdowns in that sense. Businesses that either weren't ever going to be profitable or needed to raise funding to maintain. That's going to be an issue. We do a lot of work with VCs, and at least in the beginning, across the board, it was we're not going to fund you unless you're like a brilliant idea. We're not going to fund you unless you have enough of a runway to get past another 6 to 12 months on your own, kind of thing. We're not going to fund you to stay alive. You need to be making some money, kind of thing. So if you didn't have a viable business model, you're probably not going to survive. And if you're looking for funding, obviously that's going to be harder. The bar has been raised. Everyone's a little bit tighter on their capital, tighter on the investments that they're making. So that's been an interesting thing. But at the same time, I think there's also been, maybe not necessarily in blockchain, but in general fintech, there's been opportunities for companies which have been able to emerge because of this new, I guess, the new normal that COVID's created, kind of thing.
No, and that's totally understandable. I think, especially in the venture capital space, you're seeing a lot of VC funds, VC money kind of drying up or being put on pause just because of, the light of the situation, right?
Exactly. I mean, obviously investments are still being made. I think for smart investors, it's a great opportunity to, potentially get valuable assets at a cheaper price. But valuations have definitely been squeezed given this situation. It's definitely a buyer's market if you're a VC. But again, not all your LPs are going to be wanting to necessarily have capital calls when they're worried about what's happening within their portfolio. That they're more maybe the traditional portfolio because of what's going on in across the globe and from a more macro perspective. I think that's kind of started to change a little bit in the past month or so, as things have seemingly gotten a bit more under control, at least over in Asia. But yeah, it's still tough.
Of course, and jumping into this aspect of, we discussed blockchain and the fintech space in Asia Pacific at a very high level. Now, jumping into a specific project of yours, Rio DeFi specifically. What is so unique about this blockchain solution, and what is this company about?
Yeah, so Rio DeFi, quite an interesting company. I give a high level. So Rio DeFi is obviously, as I mentioned, decentralized finance company. Focused on creating decentralized financial services for people. And I guess the mission is to really be the bridge between traditional finance and decentralized financial applications. So within that, Rio has, I'll just refer to it as Rio because it's easy. Rio has created a suite of products or is creating a suite of products, including its own proprietary blockchain called Rio Chain, a wallet. It's going to have a savings and lending piece. It's going to have an exchange. It's going to have all these different things. Stable coin is going to have custody. It's going to have it's quite a broad ecosystem, as well as these different dApps, all built upon Rio Chain. And Rio Chain is built upon a technology or protocol called Substrate, created by Parity Technologies. So for those who are interested in blockchain applications or kind of the next gen blockchains, Parity and Substrate are, creating some pretty interesting interoperable protocols. Again, so for those interested in like truly in blockchain, you probably have heard of the blockchain called Polkadot. So Polkadot's created also from Parity and from built on Substrate. So our chain is similar. It's interoperable. It's meant to be scalable. It's meant to have high levels of security because of the governance system that they use. Currently, our chain is a POA, or federated chain, proof of authority. So we're not actually that decentralized at the moment, but our plan as we go along is to grow decentralization within our chain, within our ecosystem. We're not that old of a company, so that's obviously something that's going to take some time. But eventually we'll move to something which is called NPOS, or proof of stake is what it's generally called. But in Polkadot language, they call it NPOS, or nominated proof of stake, which we can get into a little bit later if need be. But effectively, Rio is creating a suite of financial products which are meant to make it easy for individuals to access crypto assets through financial services that seem like they're your run-of-the-mill applications from a bank or from some sort of financial institution, which are still accessible, they're still easy to use, and they're still secure. So we work together with financial institutions to ensure that we are licensed where we need to be. We are not licensed where we don't need to be necessarily. So we'll have a suite of products which fit everyone. If you want a licensed product, we have that. If you want something a little bit more crypto, we have that. If you want something in the middle, we'll have that. So it really covers everything.
Very interesting. So you're truly serving all aspects of the market here.
Yeah, essentially trying to, and we have a ton of different products that we're trying to create. So that's also fun and challenging at the same time.
Interesting. And can you maybe expand a bit on this aspect of why is it that you chose to go with parity?
Well, I think there's only several different types of what's it called? I guess interoperable protocols out there at the moment. There's Cosmos and Tendermint, there's Polkadot and Substrate, a couple others, but we felt that parity and Substrate was the way to go because of the robustness of the technology, the ease of use for creating different unique blockchains on the system, as well as the interoperability element is quite unique, and the ecosystem behind it is very, very strong. So the founder of Parity and of Substrate and of Polkadot is this guy named Dr. Gavin Wood, who's also one of the co-founders of Ethereum. So this dude's just an absolute genius, I would say. Been an OG crypto guy for a long time, and he just has I think a brilliant way of creating a governance system that's secure, that's interoperable, and supports a very strong community behind it. So for us, it just made sense. And I think the thing is, when you're talking about DeFi products, you need something that's very, very interoperable. You need something that's scalable, and secure. We need to have enterprise grade security on a lot of our different applications. So the way that it's set up, you kind of have two different main chains within the, I guess, Parity or Substrate ecosystem. You have Polkadot, which is it's actually just the mainnet just launched last week. The DOT token is still yet to be launched live. We're still pretty early in that. But they do have kind of like a scaled down version, which is called Kusama, which is more meant to be like a testing ground without the enterprise grade security, but still a lot of the similar interoperable, scalable elements of the Polkadot chain. So that's kind of how that ecosystem is structured, and it's pretty fun to be able to work with those guys. They're good guys, and very very knowledgeable, and just a pleasure to work with.
Sure. It's very interesting, some of the names that they give their products.
Oh yeah, for sure. And actually, I think the best part for me was I tend to enjoy modern art, and Yayoi Kusama is a Japanese artist who is known for her polka dots and her dots in her artwork. So it's kind of funny that they took that name Kusama and took it from the polka dot, and then that reference and allusion there is pretty cool. And at the same time, Kusama is meant to be like the logo is it's basically a canary, like a canary in a coal mine. So it's like meant to be a warning, or meant to be like like I think they say something like